What if the God you were taught to worship, the God of creation, the God of order, the God of goodness and light, is actually the villain of the cosmic story? What if the serpent in the garden wasn't the deceiver, but the liberator? What if the fall wasn't humanity's greatest mistake, but its only chance at freedom? What if everything you've been taught about good and evil, light and darkness, God and devil, is inverted? This isn't modern atheism. This isn't edgy internet philosophy. This is ancient theology. This is what early Christian heretics called Gnosticism. And it presents a cosmology so disturbing, so fundamentally opposed to Orthodox Christianity, that the Church spent centuries trying to erase it, trying to burn the texts, trying to eliminate the teachers, trying to ensure that no one would ever encounter this alternative reading of Genesis, this alternative understanding of who created the world and why, this alternative answer to the question that Orthodox theology cannot satisfactorily address. If God is all-powerful and all-good, why is the world filled with suffering? The Gnostic answer is simple and devastating. The God who created this world is not all good. The creator of matter, of flesh, of suffering, of death, is not the true God, is not the ultimate divine reality, is a lesser being, a flawed being, an ignorant being, sometimes a malevolent being. The Gnostics called this creator the Demiurge, and they identified the Demiurge with Yahweh, with the God of the Old Testament, with the jealous God who demands worship, who punishes disobedience, who creates a world of suffering and then blames humans for suffering, who sets up impossible rules and then condemns those who break them, who claims to be the only God while demonstrating the characteristics of a tyrant. This is the villain. This is the false God. This is the cosmic deceiver. And the true divine reality, the actual God beyond this God, can only be accessed by seeing through the deception, by recognizing that the Creator is not the Savior, that liberation requires rejecting the Creator's authority, that gnosis, direct knowledge, reveals what faith obscures, that you're trapped in a prison created by a being who claims to be your father, but is actually your jailer. Before we examine the Gnostic texts, before we look at what they actually say about the Creator, understand what you're encountering. This isn't just alternative theology. This is cosmological rebellion. This is the claim that the fundamental structure of reality as presented by mainstream religion is backwards. That what you've been taught to worship is what you should resist. That what you've been taught to resist is what offers liberation. That the entire moral framework of Western civilization is inverted, built on worship of the wrong God, built on obedience to a tyrant, built on mistaking imprisonment for providence. If this interests you, if you want to understand what the early church was so desperate to suppress, if you're ready to examine texts that present God as villain, then subscribe to the Hidden Codex, because we explore the suppressed, the heretical, the ideas that were too dangerous to be allowed to survive. Turn on notifications. What we're examining isn't just historical curiosity. It's a complete inversion of everything you've been taught about divine and demonic, about good and evil, about the nature of this world and who made it. Let's begin with the texts. Let's see what the Gnostics actually said. Let's examine the ancient proof that the God you worship might be the villain. The Nag Hammadi Library was discovered in Egypt in 1945. 13 leather-bound codices, 52 texts, most of them Gnostic, most of them condemned as heresy by the early church, buried around 400 CE, probably by monks trying to preserve them from destruction, hidden for over 1,500 years. And when they were translated, when scholars could finally read what the early Gnostics actually believed, the content was shocking. Not because it was incomprehensible, but because it was clear, systematic, developed, a complete alternative cosmology, a complete alternative reading of Genesis, a complete inversion of orthodox theology. And at the center of this cosmology is a text called the Apocryphon of John, secret teaching of John, hidden knowledge, gnosis. It begins with John the disciple after the crucifixion, encountering a Pharisee who mocks him, who asks where his teacher is now. John, devastated, goes to the wilderness, and there he has a vision. Christ appears to him, not the suffering Christ, not the crucified Christ, but the pre-existent Christ, the divine revealer, the emanation of the true God. And Christ tells John the truth about creation, the truth that was hidden, the truth that explains everything. In the beginning, Christ says, there is the monad, the one, the ineffable source, the true God beyond being, absolute, unknowable, perfect. From this monad emanates Barbelo, the first thought, the Divine Mother. And from their union, further emanations proceed, aeons, divine attributes, each representing an aspect of the ultimate divine reality. This is the pleroma, the fullness, the divine realm where nothing lacks, nothing suffers, nothing dies. This is the true spiritual reality, perfect, complete, and it has nothing to do with the material world, nothing to do with flesh, matter, suffering, death. The material world comes from something else, comes from a mistake, comes from a flaw in the divine order. One of the aeons, Sophia, wisdom, acts without her consort, acts alone, and from this unauthorized action, something is born, something that should not exist, a being outside the pleroma, a being ignorant of its source, a being that thinks it is the only God. This being is Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge, the false God, the creator of the material world, the God of the Old Testament. The text describes Yaldabaoth as lion-faced, serpent-bodied, monstrous, born from error. Sophia is horrified by what she's produced, hides him away. But Yaldabaoth, ignorant of the pleroma, ignorant of the true divine reality above him, looks around and sees nothing greater than himself, sees no other God. And he declares, I am God, and there is no other God beside me. This is the voice from Genesis. This is Yahweh. This is the jealous God who demands exclusive worship. But he's not the true God. He's an ignorant pretender, a false God who doesn't know he's false, who believes himself supreme when he's actually a mistake, a flaw, an abortion of the divine process. And from this false God comes creation, comes the material world, comes matter, flesh, suffering, death. The world is not the creation of ultimate good, is the creation of ignorance, is the prison built by a being who thinks he's supreme but is actually defective. This is why the world is flawed, why suffering exists, why death is inevitable, not because God is testing you, not because you're being punished, but because the Creator himself is flawed, ignorant, possibly malevolent. The world reflects its Creator, and its Creator is the villain. Yaldabaoth creates the world and the archons, rulers, powers, authorities. These are the cosmic forces that govern the material realm, the spiritual powers that keep humans trapped, that maintain the prison, that enforce the Creator's rules. They're not demons in the traditional sense. They're the enforcement mechanisms of the Demiurge, the cosmic bureaucracy that administers the prison. And then Yaldabaoth creates humans. But there's a problem. He wants to create them in his own image, wants to make them like himself. But he sees another image, reflected from above, a divine image, the true human, the anthropos, existing in the pleroma. And he uses this image as template, creates Adam, But Adam is lifeless, is just matter, just flesh without spirit. The archons cannot animate him, cannot make him truly alive. So Sophia, from above, takes pity. She tricks Yaldabaoth, convinces him to breathe into Adam his own power, his own pneuma, his own spirit. And when he does, the divine spark that was in him, that came ultimately from Sophia's error, passes into Adam, and Adam becomes alive, becomes unsouled, becomes something more than mere flesh. He contains a spark of the divine, a spark that came from above, a spark that belongs to the pleroma, a spark trapped in matter, trapped in the flesh, trapped in the world created by the Demiurge. This is the human condition. You are a divine spark imprisoned in flesh, imprisoned in a world created by a false god, ruled by archonic powers, kept ignorant of your true nature. This is the Gnostic revelation. This is the knowledge that saves. The Demiurge, seeing that Adam has become alive, becomes jealous, realizes that Adam has something he doesn't fully understand, something from above, something that makes Adam potentially greater than himself. So he creates limitations, creates mortality, creates suffering, creates the conditions that will keep Adam trapped, keep Adam ignorant, keep Adam obedient. He places Adam in Eden. But Eden is not paradise. Eden is the first prison, the place where the Demiurge maintains control, where he sets the rules, where he establishes the test. And the test is obedience. The tree of knowledge is placed in the center, and the command is given. Do not eat. Do not know. Do not become aware. Remain ignorant. Remain obedient. Remain trapped. This is the Demiurge's command, and it's framed as divine will, as the word of God, as the test of righteousness. But actually, it's the maintenance of imprisonment, the enforcement of ignorance, the demand that you remain unaware of what you actually are. Then comes the serpent. In Orthodox theology, the serpent is Satan, the deceiver, the enemy, the one who ruins everything. But in Gnostic theology, the serpent is the hero, is the liberator, is the divine messenger sent from above to wake Adam up, to reveal the truth, to offer gnosis. The serpent, in some Gnostic texts, is an emanation of Sophia herself, is Christ, is the divine revealer, coming into the prison to free the prisoners. And what does the serpent say? You will not die. Your eyes will be opened. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. The Demiurge said eating would bring death. The serpent says eating will bring knowledge. Who's telling the truth? They both are, in different senses. Eating brings knowledge, brings awareness, brings the realization of what you are and what's been done to you. But it also brings death, because once you're aware, you're dangerous. You're no longer obedient, no longer controllable. So the Demiurge must expel you, must introduce suffering, toil, pain, mortality, must punish the awakening, must make sure that knowledge comes with such cost that most will never seek it. This is the fall, not from grace, but into awareness, not from goodness, but into knowledge. The fall is awakening, and awakening is dangerous to the warden. Eve eats first. In Orthodox theology, this makes her the one who doomed humanity. In Gnostic theology, this makes her the first to wake up, the first to choose knowledge over obedience, the first to rebel against the false god, the first to say no to the Demiurge. She becomes the heroine, the mother of consciousness, the one who chooses freedom over prison, knowledge over ignorance, awareness over obedience. And she gives to Adam, awakens him too, and they both see. Their eyes are opened, not metaphorically. Actually, they see that they're naked, see that they're vulnerable, See that they're in a world that's hostile. See that the God who claimed to be good is actually a jailer. See that the paradise they thought they inhabited is actually a prison. This seeing is gnosis. This seeing is salvation, not salvation from sin. Salvation from ignorance, salvation through knowledge, through direct awareness of what is actually happening. The Demiurge responds with rage, with jealousy, the emotions of a tyrant, not a loving father. He curses them. He curses the serpent. He introduces pain in childbirth, toil in work, enmity between humans and nature, mortality, suffering, the full weight of material existence. These aren't natural consequences. These are punishments. These are the responses of a false god whose authority has been challenged, whose prison has been exposed, whose control has been threatened, and he expels them from Eden, not because they're unworthy, but because they're now dangerous, now aware, now unable to be controlled through simple obedience. They've tasted knowledge. They've seen through the illusion. They can never return to naive obedience. So they must be expelled, must be made to suffer, must be kept from the tree of life, must be prevented from becoming fully divine, must be maintained in partial awareness, aware enough to suffer, not aware enough to transcend. This is the human condition according to Gnosticism, partially awake, trapped between animal unconsciousness and divine awareness, suffering because you know too much to be comfortable, but not enough to be free. Throughout the Old Testament, the Gnostics saw evidence of the Demiurge's true nature, Yahweh's jealousy, his demand for exclusive worship, his violent punishments, the flood that destroys most of humanity, the plagues on Egypt, the commanded genocides, the petty vengeance, the collective punishments, the innocent suffering, the children punished for parents' sins. All of this, in Orthodox theology, must be explained away, must be justified, must be made compatible with the claim that God is all good, that God is love, that God is just. The explanations become tortured, become sophisticated, become theological gymnastics. God's ways are mysterious. God's justice is different from human justice. God sees what we don't see. God's love includes wrath. God's goodness includes destruction. The Orthodox position requires accepting that good means something completely different when applied to God than when applied to anyone else. That love, when God does it, can look exactly like hate. That justice, when God enacts it, can look exactly like arbitrary cruelty. The Gnostic position is simpler, more direct, more honest. These aren't the actions of ultimate good. These are the actions of a flawed creator, of an ignorant, jealous, petty tyrant, of a being whose claims to godhood exceed his actual divine nature. Of course, Yahweh is jealous. Of course, he demands exclusive worship. Of course, he punishes those who disobey. Of course, he destroys those who threaten his authority, because he's not secure in his authority, because he knows at some level that there's something above him, that there's a true God beyond him, that his creation is flawed, that his creatures contain sparks of something greater than him. And this knowledge, this threat, makes him violent, makes him controlling, makes him jealous, makes him exactly what the Old Testament describes him as. Not the God of love, the God of jealousy, the God of wrath, the God who says, I am a jealous God, and means it as self-description, not as mysterious attribute requiring explanation. He is jealous because he's false, because he's usurped authority, because he's the cosmic equivalent of a tyrant claiming divine right while actually being just another power-hungry ruler. But what about Jesus? What about the New Testament? What about love and grace and redemption? The Gnostics had an answer. Christ is not the son of the Demiurge. Christ is the messenger from above, the revealer from the true God beyond the Creator. Christ came not to fulfill the law of the Demiurge, but to abolish it. Not to repair creation, but to offer escape from it. Not to reconcile humans to the Creator, but to reveal that the Creator is not who he claims to be. This is why the Gnostic Christ often seems so different from the Orthodox Christ. Why the Gnostic texts emphasize secret teachings, hidden knowledge, private revelations to select disciples. Why there's an insider or outsider dynamic. Why Jesus tells some people they cannot understand. Why he speaks in parables to the crowds but explains plainly to the inner circle. The inner circle receives gnosis, direct knowledge, the revelation that the Creator is false and the true God is beyond. The Gospel of Judas, another Gnostic text from Nag Hammadi, presents this most clearly. Judas is not the betrayer, is the only disciple who understood, the only one Jesus could trust with the truth. Jesus tells Judas that the other disciples worship the wrong God, that they worship the Creator, that they don't understand his true nature, that his mission is not to redeem creation, but to escape it. And Judas must betray him, must hand him over, not out of greed, not out of evil, but because Jesus must shed the flesh, must escape the body, must return to the pleroma. The crucifixion is not a sacrifice to appease an angry God. Is escape, is liberation, is the divine spark returning to its source, shedding the material prison. And Judas facilitates this, enables this, performs the necessary action that the other disciples, trapped in their worship of the Demiurge, cannot perform. This is why Jesus says, "What you're going to do quickly." This is why he accepts the betrayal, because it's not betrayal, it's the completion of the mission, the final escape, the return home. And Judas, tragic hero, facilitates it while being eternally condemned by those who don't understand. The Gospel of Thomas, perhaps the most important Gnostic text, is almost entirely sayings, secret teachings, and they're often bizarre, often contradictory to canonical Gospels. Jesus says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This is gnosis. This is the teaching that salvation comes from within, from recognizing and actualizing the divine spark, from bringing forth the inner light, from knowing yourself as divine, not from external Savior, not from sacrifice, not from grace imparted by the Creator, from knowledge, from awareness, from gnosis. Jesus says, the kingdom of the Father is spread upon the earth and people don't see it, not coming in the future, not in heaven after death, here, now, but unseen, because people are blind, ignorant, trapped in the illusion maintained by the Demiurge. Salvation is seeing through, is recognizing what's already here, is gnosis, not faith, knowledge, not belief. Jesus says, when you make the two into one, and when you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and when you make male and female into a single one, then you will enter the kingdom. This is mystical language, is the language of transcending dualities, of escaping the categories the Demiurge uses to divide and control. Male, female, inner, outer, upper, lower, these are the divisions of material existence, of the fallen creation, of the prison. Transcending them, making them one, seeing beyond them, is entering the pleroma, is achieving gnosis, is becoming whole again. This cannot be done through obedience to the Creator's laws, can only be done through seeing beyond the Creator entirely, through recognizing that the true divine reality has nothing to do with matter, with flesh, with gender, with the categories that structure material existence. These categories are the bars of the prison. Transcending them is escape. The Secret Book of John, another Nag Hammadi text, provides more details about the structure of the cosmos, about the archons, about the planetary spheres, each controlled by an archon, each imposing limitations on the soul as it descends into incarnation. Birth is not blessing, is imprisonment. Is the soul descending from the pleroma through the archonic spheres, each archon imposing ignorance, passion, limitation, until the soul reaches the body and forgets entirely what it is, forgets its divine origin, forgets the pleroma, forgets its true nature. And material life is this state of forgetting, this state of imprisonment, this state of being ruled by archons who feed on your ignorance, your suffering, your spiritual energy. Death is not end, is just transition. The soul ascends, but if it lacks gnosis, it cannot pass the archons, cannot transcend the spheres, must return, must reincarnate, must descend again. The cycle continues. Birth, life, death, rebirth, eternal recycling through matter, eternal imprisonment, until gnosis, until knowledge that allows you to recognize the archons as false authorities, that allows you to bypass them, that allows you to return to the pleroma, to escape the material cosmos entirely, to end the cycle. This is why Gnosticism was so threatening to Orthodox Christianity, because it inverts everything, makes the Creator the villain, makes matter itself evil, or at least deeply flawed, makes the body a prison, not a temple, makes salvation through knowledge, not through faith or works, makes Jesus a revealer, not a sacrifice, makes the church unnecessary, because gnosis is direct, personal, unmediated. You don't need priests, don't need sacraments, don't need institutional authority. You need knowledge, need direct experience, need to see for yourself. And this threatens every power structure, every hierarchy, every claim to mediation between God and humanity. If gnosis is direct, if salvation is knowledge, if the church itself is potentially an archonic structure maintaining ignorance, then the entire edifice of institutional religion is threatened. This is why the Gnostics were persecuted, why their texts were burned, why heresy hunting became necessary, because Gnosticism doesn't just offer alternative theology, offers liberation from all theology, liberation from all authority, liberation through seeing that the authorities themselves are part of the prison. If this inversion disturbs you, if you recognize elements of Gnostic thought in your own questioning of traditional theology, if you've ever wondered why an all-good God creates a world filled with suffering, then subscribe to the Hidden Codex, because we explore the suppressed traditions, the alternative readings, the interpretations that were too dangerous to survive. We don't tell you what to believe. We show you what was hidden, let you decide what resonates, let you examine the evidence and reach your own conclusions. Next time, we'll explore something even more forbidden. Until then, consider what you've learned, that there's an ancient tradition, older than Orthodox Christianity, that reads Genesis as the story of liberation, not fall, that sees the serpent as hero, not villain, that identifies Yahweh as Demiurge, not true God, that teaches salvation through knowledge, not faith, that inverts every moral category you've been taught, and that was suppressed for exactly these reasons, because it's dangerous, because it undermines authority, because it suggests that what you've been taught to worship is what you should resist, that what you've been taught to resist offered liberation, that the entire structure is backwards, that the God you worship is actually the villain. Now you know this tradition exists. Now you know what the early Christians were fighting about. Now you know why some interpretations were condemned as heresy, while others became orthodoxy. Now you know that the version you were taught isn't the only version, isn't even the oldest version, is the version that won, the version that survived, the version that served institutional power. But there were others, and they said something completely different. They said the Creator is flawed. They said matter is prison. They said knowledge saves. They said the serpent told the truth. They said awakening is dangerous to those who want to keep you asleep. They said you contain something divine, trapped in flesh. They said recognizing this is salvation. They said the authorities keeping you ignorant are archonic powers. They said transcending requires seeing through every authority, every structure, every claim to mediate between you and the divine. They said you already have everything you need, already are what you're seeking, already contain the divine spark. You just forgot. You just don't see it. You just accepted the Demiurge's narrative about what you are and why you're here. And accepting that narrative is how the prison works, how the control operates, how the archons feed, by keeping you ignorant, by keeping you obedient, by keeping you believing that the jailer is your father, that the prison is paradise, that imprisonment is providence, that suffering is somehow for your good, that the Creator's jealous rage is somehow love, that destruction is somehow mercy, that the world as it is reflects ultimate goodness, when it doesn't, when it reflects the flawed nature of its flawed Creator, when it shows you exactly what the Demiurge is: ignorant, jealous, violent, controlling, petty, everything Yahweh is described as in the Old Testament. Not mysterious goodness requiring faith to accept. Simple clarity. The Creator is exactly what He appears to be. Not all good, not all loving, not even all knowing. Just powerful. Just controlling. Just insisting He's the only God when He's not. And seeing this. Really seeing it. His gnosis. His awakening. Is the beginning of liberation. Is the first step toward recognizing that you're not what you've been told you are. Not fallen creature needing redemption. Not sinner requiring salvation. Not inherently flawed requiring grace from the Creator who made you flawed and then punishes you for being flawed. But divine spark temporarily trapped, temporarily ignorant, temporarily imprisoned, but capable of remembering, capable of seeing, capable of knowing, capable of gnosis. And gnosis is what the Demiurge fears most, what the archons exist to prevent, what the entire structure of material existence works to obscure. Because if you know what you are, you can't be controlled. If you see what's actually happening, you can't be imprisoned. If you recognize the divine within, you don't need external salvation. Don't need institutional mediation. Don't need the authorities. Don't need the Creator. Can transcend the entire system. Can escape. Can return home to the pleroma, to the fullness, to what you actually are beyond matter, beyond flesh, beyond time, beyond the creation of the false god. This is the Gnostic promise. This is the ancient proof. This is what was suppressed. This is why it was suppressed. This is what you needed to know. The God you worship might be the villain. The serpent might have told the truth. The fall might have been the first awakening. Knowledge might be salvation. And you might be far more than you've been told you are. Divine spark in flesh, temporarily forgetting, but capable of remembering, capable of gnosis, capable of seeing through, capable of escape. This is the message. This is the heresy. This is the ancient proof that everything is inverted. Welcome to Gnosis. Welcome to the knowledge that changes everything. Welcome to seeing the villain wearing the mask of God.